Hello and welcome. So, artificial intelligence, AI, it's a term that is absolutely everywhere. But let's be honest, what is it, really? It can feel like this huge, complicated puzzle. Well, today we're going to demystify it. We're going to take it apart piece by piece and show you exactly how all those moving parts fit together.
Look, if you've ever heard terms like machine learning and neural networks and deep learning all thrown around in the same sentence and felt your head start to spin, you are not alone at all. It's the swirl of buzzwords that can make a normal conversation feel like you're suddenly taking a pop quiz. But what if we could actually see how it all fits together? Well, for this explainer, we're going to use a super simple but really powerful analogy, a set of Russian nesting dolls. This is going to be our key to understanding how all these concepts relate to each other, from the biggest idea on the outside all the way down to the most specific one on the inside.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big idea, AI itself. Then we'll start opening up those nesting dolls to see what's inside. After that, we'll meet a pretty cool, creative type of AI. And finally, and this is important, we'll talk about how you can discuss all this stuff without breaking a sweat.
All right, let's get right into it. We're starting with the biggest doll, the one on the very outside that holds everything else. So that biggest doll, that's artificial intelligence. You can think of AI as the entire field, the whole grand project of trying to create intelligent systems. It's this massive umbrella term that covers basically anything where a machine does something that would normally require a human brain. From a car driving itself to your email automatically filtering out spam. Okay, so now for the fun part. Let's crack open that first doll and see what we find hiding inside. This is where it starts to get really interesting. Now, what's really important to understand is how different this is from what most of us think of as just, regular computer code. With traditional programming, a person has to sit down and write out explicit, step-by-step rules for every single thing the computer might encounter. But with machine learning, it's totally different. The system learns on its own, just by looking at tons of data. It finds the patterns itself. And that brings us to our second doll, machine learning, or ML for short. It's a specific approach within that big AI field, and it's all about learning from experience. So instead of a programmer trying to think of every single rule, an ML system just gets smarter and better the more data you feed it. I absolutely love this analogy. Think about it. You don't hand a toddler a textbook on how to identify their favorite cartoon character, right? No, you just show them pictures over and over again, and eventually they just get it. Machine learning is basically the same idea, just with a whole lot more data. And you're using this stuff all the time, probably without even realizing it. When your phone finishes your sentence for you, that's machine learning. When your streaming service recommends a movie that is so perfect for you, yup, that's ML. The basic idea is the same as what you see here. It's just learning through repetition and patterns, just like an animal learning to respond to cues. So if machine learning is our second doll, let's open it up too. And inside, we find neural networks. Now, this is a specific kind of machine learning that's actually inspired by the way our own brains are wired. It uses these layers of interconnected nodes that work together to process information, kind of like our own neurons. I mean, just imagine for a second you're trying to figure out what to have for dinner. Your brain instantly starts weighing all these different factors, right? How hungry you are, what food you have in the fridge, how much time you've got. A neural network does the exact same thing, but with data points. It weighs them all to come up with the best possible answer. And this brain-like approach is behind some of the most incredible tech we use every single day. That Face ID that unlocks your phone, it's using a neural network. A customer service chatbot that actually seems to understand what you're asking, that's a neural network. Even when your map app predicts you're probably heading home from work, yep, you guessed it. And that brings us to the very center of it all, the smallest, innermost doll, deep learning. This is basically a neural network on steroids. It has tons and tons of layers. That's what makes it deep. And all those layers let it recognize really complex, subtle patterns in massive amounts of data. We're talking about things like understanding all the little nuances of human speech or making the split-second life-or-death decisions needed to drive a car. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates how powerful this is. The author of our source material was driving in some really heavy traffic when their car's collision avoidance system, which is a deep learning feature, just slammed on the brakes all by itself. It was shocking,
but it perfectly predicted and prevented an accident, processing this incredibly complex situation in a fraction of a second. So if you remember one thing, remember this hierarchy. Just think of it like an office. AI is the manager of the whole department. Machine learning is that hardworking employee who learns on the job. And deep learning, that's the super specialized expert you call in for the toughest, most complicated problems.
Okay, so now that we've unpacked all our nesting dolls, there's one more special character we need to introduce. It actually uses all the dolls we've just talked about, but for a totally different and frankly, pretty exciting reason. And that is generative AI. See, while most of the AI we've talked about is for analyzing or understanding information that already exists, generative AI is all about creating something brand new. It uses those same powerful deep learning models to generate totally original stories, create incredible images, and even compose music. If you've ever played around with something like ChatGPT, you've seen generative AI do its thing. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. So now what? What's the big takeaway here? How are you supposed to approach this whole topic in your actual life? Well, here's the best part. The goal is not to stress out about all this terminology. Just knowing the hierarchy, that machine learning is a part of AI and deep learning is a part of machine learning, that's the key. But honestly, in a normal, everyday conversation, it's totally fine to just call all of it AI. Seriously, this quote just nails it. The point isn't to be able to give a technical lecture at a dinner party. It's about having a general grasp of the concepts. Nobody is expecting you to break down the different kinds of neural networks over lunch. So here's your toolkit. Just keep it simple. Use those analogies we talked about, like the nesting dolls. And most importantly, just stay curious. If you hear a term and you don't know what it is, just look it up. It's not a test, it's just learning. Because at the end of the day, the point of all this isn't just to memorize a bunch of facts. It's to feel comfortable with the topic. It's about understanding the big picture, so you can feel confident enough to jump into a conversation, ask good questions, and not feel intimidated by all the jargon. So there you have it. We've unpacked the nesting dolls, from the huge idea of AI all the way down to the power of deep learning. We've seen how it all fits together and hopefully taken some of the mystery out of the language. So the question really isn't just about what AI can do anymore, it's what will you do with this new clarity?